Hello guys, welcome to 100 Learning Together. This is Harshika, your physics and chemistry tutor. Hope you're all doing great. Hope you're all preparing well for your exams. So in this video, we are going to discuss the sample paper from chemistry syllabus, okay? So we have already discussed about the physics syllabus. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the chemistry syllabus. So from the sample question paper that was released by the CBSE board, we know for chemistry, totally you'll get it for 25 marks. Okay, so 25 marks you'll score from chemistry syllabus. So from that, in this sample question paper, if you notice, they have asked around 7 1-mark questions. So totally there were 7 1-mark questions, so it was kind of challenging. So in this video, we'll be analyzing the sample question paper with the answers. I'll discuss it with the answers. I'll give you the explanation for the answers. And then we are going to see which chapter is important, where should you put in more concentration and study. So all these we'll be analyzing so that you'll have a clear idea on how to study, where you should concentrate more, okay, and how you should practice so that you'll be ready to face your board exam. So 7 1-mark question and then 1 reason and assertion based question, 1 2-mark question, and then 2 3-mark question, 1 5-mark question, and 1 case based question. So this is how the marks have been split for your chemistry portions. So 1 case based question was asked. Okay, so this is how they have split the marks. So the 7 1-mark questions, I won't call it challenging, but if you have understood the concepts clearly, it would be very easy to answer. So with respect to CBSE board, you have to understand the concept. So once you understand the concept clearly, try solving NCERT books, previous year questions, exemplar books. So once you start solving many questions, it will only get easier for you to attend your board exams. So you'll definitely know the concepts. So the challenge is attending many questions, practicing many questions. So if you understand the question, answering it will be very simple because you'll know the concept. So first we'll discuss with the 1 mark. So in order we'll discuss. So starting with the 1 marks, identify the product which represents the solid state in the above reaction. Okay. So here in this reaction, they are taking a test tube, okay, which contains barium chloride, and there's another test tube which contains sodium sulfate. So we are going to take sodium sulfate, which is Na2 SO4, and you're going to mix it with barium chloride. So it's very much clear it is liquid. So these two liquids, they are going to combine and you're going to get a solid. So this is an example for precipitation reaction or double displacement reaction. Okay, so it's precipitation or double displacement reaction. So this example is given in the textbook, double displacement reaction. So what we'll get, the product will be NaCl and barium sulfate. So barium sulfate is the insoluble substance which we call it as the precipitate. Okay. So when you mix two liquids and if you get a solid and a liquid, and then we call this reaction as precipitation reaction. And here you can notice there is exchange of ions. So if exchange of ions takes place, then we call it as double displacement reaction. So here the salt that is formed is barium sulfate. So this is a book inside question. So hope you know the answer. The color of the solution observed after 30 minutes of placing zinc metal to copper sulfate solution is. So you're taking copper sulfate and you're going to add zinc, and you get zinc sulfate plus copper. The reason is zinc is more reactive than copper. So here displacement reaction is taking place. So this is an example for displacement reaction. Zinc is highly reactive compared to copper. So it has replaced the copper. Now copper sulfate solution is blue in color, whereas zinc sulfate solution is colorless. Okay, so the zinc sulfate solution is colorless. That's the reason you get a colorless solution. So which is a mild non-corrosive basic salt. Okay, so which is a mild non-corrosive basic salt. So if you see the first three options, they are made from a strong acid or a strong base. Okay, so the first three options if you're going to consider, so these three are made of either a strong base or a strong salt. Okay, so it's made up of a strong base or a strong salt. Say NaCl, it's made up of HCl, which is a strong salt. Okay, and then NaOH is a strong base. It is one of the strongest base. So it's made up of either strong acid or strong base. So they are not mild and non-corrosive. Okay. So if you take NaHCO3, it is made up of a weak acid. It is made up of a weak acid. It's an example of baking soda. So that you can consume. Hence, it is mild and non-corrosive. So we can consume it. Hence, it is mild and non-corrosive. Next question. On adding dilute sulfuric acid to a test tube containing a metal X, you're getting a colorless gas that is produced when a burning matchstick is brought near it. So it is hydrogen. So we know the test to find out the hydrogen gas and carbon dioxide gas. So hydrogen gas, you'll hear that pop sound when you bring a matchstick close by. Which of the following represents the metal X? Okay. So they have mentioned it as metal. So sulfur is not a metal, so you cannot have sulfur. Copper and silver are less reactive than hydrogen. Less reactive than hydrogen, so it cannot replace hydrogen. So that's the reason the answer is sodium. Sodium is highly reactive than hydrogen. So here it has replaced hydrogen. It has replaced the hydrogen and you get copper sulfate plus hydrogen gas that is released. So here the clue is reactivity. So you'll have to know the reactivity series for sure. Only then you'll be able to answer the questions based on displacement reactions. The next question. Which one of the following represents sodium oxide? So we know the formula for sodium oxide is Na2O. Okay, so the formula for sodium oxide is Na2O. So if you take sodium, the atomic number is 11. So the electronic configuration is 2, 8. And then you have 2. Oxygen, it's 16. So it is 2, 8, and then 6. So sodium has to lose the electrons to become stable. Oxygen has to gain the electron. Sorry, here you'll have 2, 8, and 1. So it has to lose 1 electron. This has to gain 2 electrons to become stable. So when sodium and oxygen is combining, oxygen will gain 2 electrons from sodium and then sodium will lose 1 electron. Only then they become stable. So here if you take this, you have 1 here. So here you have 2, here you have 1. So you can just cross multiply. Then you'll have oxygen, since it is gaining the electrons, it is having negative charge and it is gaining 2 electrons to become stable. For sodium, since it is losing the electrons, it is becoming positive charge. Here you need 2 sodium, only then it will be balanced. So you have 2 here. Okay. So the option is B. So this is an important concept. So in the 10th textbook, they haven't mentioned the methods on how you should know these formulas, but this is the basics. Make sure you know the basics on how to find the formulas. So sodium oxide, the formula is Na2O. How do you find? You find it with the help of the number of valence electrons. So whether they gain the electrons or whether they lose the electrons, with the help of that, we put signs there and then we get the formula. So make sure you know that method on how to find out the formulas. That is going to be very helpful and that is one of the basic concepts in chemistry. Next question. An element with an atomic number dash will form a basic oxide. Okay. So if you take metallic oxides are only basic. Metallic oxides are only basic in nature. Okay, so metallic oxides are only basic in nature. So generally, if you take metals in the valence shell, they will have 1, 2, or 3 electrons and they will lose the electrons to become stable. So this is the general nature of the metal. So we have discussed this in metals and non-metals chapter. So how is the configuration? How is the dot structure? So here metallic oxides are generally basic in nature. Non-metallic oxides are generally acidic in nature. So here if you take, I told you one clue, that is it should have either 1, 2 or 3 electrons. So that will help us to find if it is a metal or non-metal. So here if you take 4 electrons, so it's going to be carbon. So if you take substances like carbon, it's a non-metal. And then here if you see, it has to gain 1 electron. So that is also going to be a non-metal. So here also it is going to be around like nitrogen dioxide. So that is also going to be a non-metal. So metallic oxide is 11, it has got 2, 8 and 1. So remember the simple trick here, metals means generally in the valence shell, they have 1, 2 or 3 electrons. So they'll either lose the electrons and then they're going to become stable. So you can use this method to find. Otherwise, you can see 4 electrons means they won't gain electrons, so they're going to lose electrons. They are only going to share the electrons and they'll try to become stable. So if there is sharing of electrons, there won't be conductivity, so it will not be a metal. So option C is ruled out. So like that, you can easily find out whether it's gaining the electrons or whether it's losing the electrons. With the help of that, you can easily find out the answer. The next question, an element M has 50% of electrons filled in the third shell. So now there is K, L and M shell. 3 shells you have. Okay. So now in K shell you have 2 electrons maximum. In L shell you can have 8 electrons maximum. So in the third shell you have 50% of the electrons in the second shell. So divided by 2 will be 4. So now the total number of electrons or the atomic number is 2 plus 8 plus 4, which is 14. So atomic number will tell you about the total number of electrons or the total number of protons. So this is how you'll find. So you'll have to just know how many number of electrons can be present in each shell, then it will be easier to answer. So now the reason and assertion based questions. So we are finished with the multiple choice questions. So this is one reason and assertion based question. Rusting of iron is endothermic in nature. False, it is exothermic in nature. Endothermic means it absorbs heat energy. Exothermic means it releases heat energy. So it is exothermic in nature. So assertion is false. As the reaction is slow, the release of heat is barely evident. Okay. So rusting of iron is exothermic. Here the rusting of iron during the process, it releases the heat. But since the process is too slow, we don't tend to notice it. But it's actually an exothermic reaction. So the answer is assertion is false, but the reason is true. So in assertion and reasoning based questions, the first option will be like both assertion and reason are correct and reason is the correct explanation. Second option will be both assertion and reason are correct and then reason is not the correct explanation. Third option is assertion is true but reason is false, and fourth option is assertion is false but reason is true. So how will you solve reason and assertion based question? Check if reason and assertion are true or false, and then try to find if they are related to each other by asking the question why. Or you can connect both the statement with the letter because, then you can easily find out if the reason and assertion are correct. Next one. Now we are moving on to the 2 marks. So you have dilute HCl and you're going to add zinc granules to it. So how will you prove that chemical change has occurred? So you'll get zinc chloride plus hydrogen. So this is the reaction. Now how do we prove? So generally if a chemical reaction is taking place, you can identify by change in temperature, change in color, or form of a precipitation. You can see a precipitate is formed, change in state. So these are some of the examples to find out if a chemical reaction has taken place. Okay. So in this reaction, what has happened is you've got zinc chloride and hydrogen gas. So if hydrogen gas is evolved, so you can see bubbles that is coming out. Since the gas has come out, you can see the bubbles that is coming out. There will be change in the temperature. When you touch the flask, you can feel that the temperature has increased. This is one reason. And then there is change in colors. So the zinc will change from silvery gray to black. So these are some observations which you can see. This is given in the textbook. It's very first few activities in the textbook itself. They have explained all these. So in chemistry, very important thing is we'll have to practice the activity based questions. Based on activity, they'll ask questions. So here there's a reaction. Shows one of the process to extract the metals like iron and manganese. Okay. So you have manganese oxide plus aluminium. It gives manganese plus aluminium oxide plus heat. So it is releasing the heat energy. So it's an exothermic reaction. Give reason why it's called as thermite reaction. Because the reaction is highly exothermic. If it is highly exothermic, we call it as thermite reaction. Or if you get the metal in a molten or liquid state, we call it a thermite reaction. So there are 2 examples, 2 statements here. Then which one is oxidized, which one is reduced? Oxidized means addition of oxygen, reduced means removal. Here you see for aluminium you have added the oxygen, so it is oxidized. Here you have removed the oxygen, so it is reduced. So aluminium is oxidized and then manganese dioxide is reduced. Give a reason why aluminium is preferably used. Because it is highly reactive than iron and manganese. It's more reactive than iron and manganese. So here you'll have to extract the iron or replace the iron and manganese, then we should obviously use some metals which are highly reactive. Hence, we have chosen aluminium. So the next one, an element M with an electronic configuration 283. So for M, the electronic configuration is 283, which means there are 3 electrons in the valence shell. Okay, it combines separately with chlorine. So in chlorine, you have got only 1 electron, and then with sulfate, okay, so -2. So write the chemical formula of the compounds formed. Predict with a suitable reason the nature of the bond formed by M in general. So it will be generally ionic bond because it's going to either gain the electron or lose the electron. So here, in order to become stable, it will lose the electrons. So how will the electrical conductivity of the compounds formed vary with M? So you're getting a new compound. How will it vary with M? Okay. So here you'll get the new compound is so MCl3 and then M2SO43. Okay, so it will generally form ionic bond. So they haven't asked us to find the element M. Okay, so with the help of electronic configuration, we are just writing the formula here. Since you have 3 and here you have 1, you'll just cross multiply. So it is MCl3. So here you have 2, so it becomes M2 and then SO43. Okay, so you'll have to just cross multiply to get the equation. So to form ionic bond, because it loses the electrons and it becomes stable. Okay, so it will lose its 3 valence electrons to get a stable configuration. So the compounds that will form will conduct electricity in liquid or molten state, but not in the solid state in contrast to it. So the compounds, now we are comparing M with the compounds that is formed. So the compounds that formed will be conducting the electricity in liquid or molten state, just opposite to the M. So M will conduct in solid state, but the compound formed will conduct only in liquid or molten state. Next question is an easy question. Reddish brown metal X. So reddish brown metal is copper. It's heated with air. So it's reacting with oxygen and it's giving a black compound Y, which is copper oxide. So which is when heated in the presence of hydrogen. Again, copper oxide, when it's reacting with hydrogen, you'll get copper. Okay, so this is the expression. So it's refined by the process of electrolysis. So you can refine it, that is, you can purify it with the help of electrolysis method, that is by passing current. So here they've asked us, it is used in electrical wiring, which is another clue. So we know there are 2 clues given here. So copper is a reddish brown metal, that's one clue. Another one is copper is used in electrical wiring. So 2 clues is given to find the compound X. Draw a well-labeled diagram to represent. Okay, so the compound X is copper and then compound Y is copper oxide. They've asked us to draw a diagram. So in the diagram, if it is electrolysis, you need an electrolyte, you need electrodes. So you have a cathode and an anode. Cathode is pure copper, anode is impure copper. So the electrolyte will have a solution of copper, that is copper sulfate solution. So you have a tank. So the impurities will settle down, and whereas the pure copper will be settling closer to the cathode. So this is the process. So this is a simple question. Compared to the first question, the second question is easier. Next one, Rahman classified the reaction between methane and chlorine in the presence of sunlight as substitution reaction. So you're taking methane CH4, you're taking chlorine Cl2, and the reaction between them in the presence of sunlight, he called it as substitution reaction. Support Rahman's view with suitable justification and illustrate the reaction with the help of a balanced chemical equation. So see here, methane plus chlorine gives. So here what is happening is it is replacing in the presence of sunlight. It is getting replaced. So chlorine is replacing hydrogen and you get HCl. Hence it is an example for substitution reaction. So that is first up. Chlorine gas was prepared using electrolysis of brine solution. So in the brine solution you will get chlorine gas. So write the chemical equation, identify the other products formed and also the application. So here if you see, if you take NaCl and water, that is the brine solution. So you'll get sodium hydroxide plus chlorine plus hydrogen. So these are the other products that is formed with chlorine. So they've asked uses. So the uses is sodium hydroxide, you have hydrogen. Any one use you can write. So sodium hydroxide is used in degreasing of metals, preparation of soaps and detergents, paper making, artificial fibers. Hydrogen is used as fuel, as a margarine, and then manufacture of ammonia for fertilizers. Any one use you can write. So here you're taking a brine solution, and from that, in that electrolysis method, you get chlorine gas. So with chlorine, you get sodium hydroxide and hydrogen. So the question is, identify the other two products and also give one use for each. Okay, so you can write any one use. The next question. So here you have B. So Raina, while doing certain reaction, observed that heating of substance X with vinegar. He's taking a substance X and he's heating it with vinegar-like smell substance, which is Y. So we'll know what are these substances. In the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid. So you're reacting X and Y with in the presence of concentrated sulfuric acid. It is giving a sweet smelling liquid Z. And they've given you the molecular formula. Okay, so here the reaction is, you're taking ethanoic acid, okay, and it's reacting with ethanol. You're getting a sweet smelling compound, that is the ester. Okay, so this is the first reaction. Next, if you take the next half of the question, when heated with caustic soda, okay, Z gives back the sodium salt and the compound Y. So identify X, Y, Z. So you're getting Z. When it reacts with NaOH, again it will give us Y. So they're asking us to identify X, Y, Z with suitable chemical reactions. So you take ethanoic acid and ethanol, and when they react, you get a sweet smelling compound that is known as ester. It is used in perfumes, esterification. This reaction is esterification. So X is ethanoic acid or acetic acid, and then Y is ethanol, Z is ester. Okay, so if you take ester and if it is reacting with NaOH, you will get ethanol and then sodium salt of ethanoic acid. So this is the reaction. The last question. A substance C is used as preservative. So in the pickles and all, which is used as preservative, vinegar is used. Okay. So vinegar is nothing but a weak acid, acetic acid. C has two carbon compounds. C is obtained by the reaction of A in the presence of alkaline potassium permanganate. You take ethanol in the presence of potassium permanganate. You're taking ethanol in the presence of alkaline potassium permanganate. You will get the ethanoic acid. Okay, so the compound C is ethanoic acid or acetic acid, which is used as a preservative in pickles. And then compound C has got two carbon compounds, so meth, eth. So the root word is eth, so it is ethanoic acid. So A is ethanol. Misuse of A in industries is prevented by adding methanol, benzene and pyridine to A. So we have already found A, so they are giving other hints. F is formed on heating A in the presence of sulfuric acid. So you are taking ethanol in the presence of sulfuric acid, you will get F, which is ethene. So here what process is taking place? Hydrogenation or addition reaction is taking place. So F reacts with hydrogen gas in the presence of nickel and palladium catalyst. So it reacts with hydrogen gas in the presence of nickel and palladium catalyst. So this is the reaction. So they've asked us, give the IUPAC name of A and F. So the IUPAC name is ethanol and ethene. And then illustrated with the chemical reaction. So we have written the chemical reactions. So in the step 2 and 5, instead of ethanol and ethene, if you're going to replace it with the next homologue, so meth, next you have propanol. So what will be the name? It will be propanol and then propene. Propanol and propene. So in the first case, your oxidation reaction will take place. Here addition or hydrogenation reaction is taking place. Whereas in the last one, if you include the next homologue series. So homologue means there should be a difference as CH2 group. So methanol and ethanol, you have a difference of CH2 group. Ethanol, propanol, there's a difference of CH2 group. So that is called as homologous series. So the next in the series after ethanol is propanol, which has got 3 carbon compounds. Okay. So this is the answer. So this is about the sample question paper with respect to chemistry. So physics question paper was comparatively easy. In chemistry, you have to know all the concepts, all the activities, all the equations. Basics should be strong. So basics is very important. You would have noticed maximum choose the correct answer MCQs based on the basics. You should know about the basics. You should know the chemical formulas. You should know how to balance it. You should know electronic configuration. If you know these three, this paper is very easy. So if you're strong with your basics, you could have easily solved this sample question paper. So from this paper analysis, what is very important is you should just strengthen your basics. Make sure you're like, you know, super clear with your basics, that's gonna help you very much. Then make sure you're going through all the activities in the textbook. So each chapter you have many activities, so go through all the activities and the answer. Then practice NCERT book, read the NCERT book line by line, practice the questions in the NCERT book, sample questions and previous year questions. This will help you to score very good marks in your board exam. Okay, so our team is ready to help you. So if you like this video, if you feel it is useful, just hit the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to our channel. So make sure to just leave a comment on what you need. What is your requirement? Where do you need help? What type of videos are you expecting? What type of live sessions are you expecting? So like that, if you just leave a comment, we will be aware of what is actually needed, and then accordingly we'll post videos and we are ready to help you. Okay. So hope this video was useful. I'll meet another important video. So till then, bye bye. Take care. All the best for your preparations.